Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon or good evening. It's probably more like good evening. Happy Monday. I am, if you are in San Francisco or in the Bay Area, California, it is raining. Yay. I'm actually kind of excited that it is raining because we need the rain. It's good to have just like a disruption to the regularly scheduled program of heat. So it's a good thing that it is kind of raining. But I am here. If you are watching live right now, share this live with your folks, with your networks. Share this live today. I'm going to be talking about conflict. So this is a touchy one. This is one that people like to hear about because this is always happening. But before we begin, I'm Tashina. I'm an executive leadership and team coach, and I help teams and the leaders who lead them collaborate better, heal from conflict, and build systems that actually work so that they can get shit done without the drama. And today we're going to be talking about conflict, and I want to invite you to see conflict a little differently than what you've probably typically seen it as. Okay. So, most of us, as you know, are taught that conflict is bad. We have been taught that there is something that is broken. We have been taught that when people don't get along or that something isn't going the way that it should, that we're in trouble. Like the team is in trouble, the organization is in trouble, our group is in trouble. There's something wrong. And one thing that I've learned after years of working with different teams and leaders, that conflict actually isn't bad. It isn't all what we make it out to be, because I see conflict as information. It's information that the system is trying to talk to you and tell you that something is out of alignment or something needs attention or even something new wants to happen, something new. Okay. And so when you start to understand that, conflict stops being something to fix. It stops being something that you're scared of or something that you need to run away from. And it becomes something that you listen to or that you pay attention to, because conflict tells you where the tension is at, where the trust may be missing, and where there is a new opportunity. Okay. So today is day 16 of my 30 days of systems that make teams work. And today I'm going to unpack for you why conflict isn't a problem. It's actually, if you avoid the conflict, what conflict is trying to tell you about your system and what is happening, and then how you as a leader can work with conflict to build a better team, to build a better system, and to learn and grow as a unit. Okay. um because I want you to look at conflict through a systems lens, not just like your individual personal lens. And I want us to stop reacting to people and looking at people as the problem, and start looking at the system so that we can start redesigning the system with the conditions that we need in order to create something new. Okay. And then really just taking a real clear look at our systems, because sometimes our systems create conditions where conflict happens a lot more frequently. Okay. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So share this live, comment, ask me questions as we're going along. I would love to answer some questions for you. So ask me any questions you may have, and share this live. Okay. All right. So one thing I got to be real about, because you know me, I'm going to be real about it, is that conflict always feels personal. Always. It always feels like a stab in the back. It feels like a gut punch. It feels like being thrown under the bus. It feels personal. It hits our emotions, and it hits those emotions of fear, frustration, and even disappointment. All these different feelings start to come up for us whenever we experience some type of level of fear. And that can trigger our nervous system and make us defensive or even shut us down. We react to what is happening, and then we start having this amygdala hijack. How many of you have heard of the amygdala hijack? area in our brain um, that typically doesn't, it's like born, like we've always had it from the days of cavemen. And whenever we have this amygdala hijack, it doesn't know the difference between us being chased by a bear or something that's really happening that is a risk to our safety and security or survival, right? And when we get this amygdala hijack, all of a sudden our common sense just goes out the window. We start thinking straight, our emotional intelligence drops, and we start to panic. But what I want us to do is start to shift what conflict is so that we stay grounded and we are solution oriented instead of like allowing the solutions to go out the window. And now we're trying to defend something that isn't as traumatic or scary as a bear, a lion, tiger, or a bear running after us, right? So that's what I want us to do, because underneath all the emotions, something deeper is happening, and it's not always what we see. Your system, and I've been talking about systems for the last week, 2 weeks, your system is surfacing something that you need to pay attention to, that something is happening. And you, as the leader or the person that's caught up in the conflict, should take a moment to ask yourself, what is wanting to happen right now? This is going to be your golden question every time you come up against some tension or a conflict. What is wanting to happen right now? What is wanting to happen right now? And it could be between roles, it could be communication, it could be expectation, it could be you're hitting on my values, but you have to figure it out. Okay. And so the conflict is going to give you some data, and it's going to be data that you're going to have to explore and you're going to have to figure out. Right now, I'm reading Brene Brown's new book, Strong Ground, and she says leaders should be like scientists. Okay. We have to be like scientists. Scientists are always looking at the data and trying to figure out what the data is sharing with us and what it's telling us, right? And so that's what I want to offer you today, is that whenever you see conflict, ask yourself, what is this data trying to tell us? What is it trying to tell me? It can be showing you what's not clear. It could be showing you what's not fair or equitable, or it could be sharing something isn't being said right now, and we need to uncover what that is. But when we only deal with conflict at the surface level, whether it's like the disagreement, the actual disagreement, or the actual words that are being said, or the actual behavior or personalities, we miss out on what the system is trying to tell us. Okay. And we fix it. We put the band-aid solutions over the conflict that's happening right now. Like, you think about this. I think about children in school, when you're just like, okay, we're just going to separate you, but never go deep on why the conflict happened in the first place. We have different ways that this has evolved in our workplaces as adults as well. Okay. You got to look out for it. You got to. So I want you to zoom out and ask, where is the tension coming from? What patterns keep repeating? Your patterns, the patterns that keep repeating, is really going to give you some good data. But you have to notice the patterns, and you might have to pay attention to this over time, but pay attention to it. And then, just like I'm saying, what is the system wanting you to pay attention to? Okay. And then that's when we start to begin to move from reaction to redesigning a system that works for all of us. Okay. That's what we want to do. Share this live. If you are watching, share this live so other people could get this information as well. Okay. Today we're talking about conflict. All right. So how systems kind of create conflict, okay? Because what I want you to know, I always say that it's not our behavior, it's not the people that create conflict, the system creates the conflict, okay? And that's how things happen, because conflict doesn't happen in isolation. We think, this is our belief as humans, that conflict is just about you and the other person, just about me and the other person. We think that whatever has happened is somehow just that circumstance, or it's just a coincidence, or it's just an instance, right? But conflict is so much deeper than that, especially in our any type of system, right? I was going to say just in our workplaces, but literally it's any system. It could be a relationship system, a family system, a government system. It could be a workplace system, a feedback system. It could be, a decision making system. It is deeper. Like it's in the system and it's shaped by the system. Okay. How communication, how decision making, how accountability works or doesn't is shaped by that. And when systems are unclear, people end up fighting for what the system isn't providing. So now, because I'm not getting what I need, the system isn't honoring my values. The system isn't giving me the promotion that I want. The system isn't allowing me to reach the goals that I want. The system isn't meeting my personal needs. The system isn't designed for me. Now I'm fighting. Now there's conflict. If you think to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, what I want you to know is that under every conflict, people want to feel seen, heard, valued, that they belong, and that they are making an impact. Okay. People want to feel seen, heard, valued, that they belong, and that they are making an impact. And so when the system isn't providing these, you are going to start to see certain behaviors at the surface level. And then conflict starts to happen. It's brewing underneath. So as a leader, I want you to say ding, 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 ding. Because this, my friend, is your opportunity to dig deeper on what the system actually needs. This is your opportunity. It is the opportunity for you to start to look at what does the system need. Okay. Here's what this looks like in practice. So when people don't feel seen, there are decisions getting made without their input, and then their frustration starts to turn into withdrawal, or there's the quiet quitting or quiet resistance. Okay. And it's because the system isn't creating visibility or inclusion in how work gets done. So we will try to, as humans, our human mind, our quick fix, selves that don't typically have time to go deeper or don't want to go deeper, or conflict is scary. So we just try to fix what we can and hopefully it smooths over. Is that will look like, okay, so let's just create more opportunities for you to get in front of people. And then when you get in front of people, you're not being recognized, or you're not being given enough time, or you get in front of people and you give an idea, but your idea isn't being taken into account. So although it looks like you're providing me with more inclusion and visibility, I still don't feel seen. Okay. This is like you have to go deeper. You have to ask yourself, what is really trying to happen here? Another thing is that when people don't feel heard, and if we're looking at meetings, you'll start to see meetings where it seems like there's competition for airtime. It seems like people with the loudest voice wins and the quieter ones just check out. This is because the system isn't creating space or structure for balanced dialogue. And this is why I talked about in some other lives before this, is that the importance of having rounds so all voices can be heard, or having some type of process with sticky notes so all voices can be heard, right? Because people who feel like I'll just say introverts. It could be harder for introverts. I'm an introvert. It could be harder for us to speak up and to share our opinions in the moment. And so, if there is no space or there is no structure or system put in place for me to be able to share these things, I am not going to feel like I'm being heard. Okay. Another one, when people don't feel valued, they start doing the bare minimum, or they stop just contributing ideas altogether. And this is because the system isn't recognizing or rewarding contribution in meaningful ways. So I shared the other day that I used to be the type of person to hoard the information, the wisdom, the things, the insights that I knew, because when I would share things, I always felt like I was not getting recognized for that, or my ideas were being stolen, or it just felt like I was not being valued in some type of way. And so, because the system didn't have a rewards and recognition program that really allowed me to like feel like I was making an impact. I said it before, people want to feel seen, heard, valued, and that they make an impact and that they belong, right? And so if I don't feel like I'm being valued because there's something happening, let's look at the system. Let's look at the system. I got two more examples. So when people don't feel like they belong, they start forming cliques or they start operating in silos. This is similar to my experience with not being valued, because I'm trying to create some safety wherever I can find it. And maybe the safety is being alone. Maybe the safety is only dependent on myself. And that's because the system isn't cultivating psychological safety, or it doesn't make me feel like my identity can be with the identity of the organization and there's a shared identity there. Okay. And then the last one is when people don't feel like they are making an impact, they disengage or they push back against the change. So, or if you are a change management, I have a change management certification in ProSci. I'm also an org development specialist. And when I am dealing with change, huge change, transformational change, even small team changes, what I see is that if people don't feel like they're part of the change and that they can make an impact and they have a role in the change, they start to push back. And that's because the system isn't connecting my daily work to purpose or outcomes or growth. So don't just throw me in the basket. Tell me what's the importance of my role in the basket. I remember being taught a different kind of shift on what do we say when we say a melting pot, and we say like that's a known statement, like they'll say like America is a melting pot and we're all one, blah 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 blah. And I remember a teacher telling me, no, we're not a melting pot, we're more like a salad bowl. We need to have a salad bowl mentality. If I'm a melting pot, that means that I am just having to drink the Kool-Aid, that I have to be like everybody else, that I have to fit into the status quo. That's what that means. But if I'm a salad bowl, I keep my flavor, I keep my shape, I keep my color, I keep who I am, and I fit well within this salad, and I just make a great dish, right? I make it, I feel I still, you could still taste me if I'm an onion. You could still taste me if I'm a tomato or avocado or the dressing or the lettuce. Like you can still experience me as who I am as that person. And so this is what it looks like to make an impact. It moves our positioning from being melting pots to salad bowls. And that's what we really want, right? So, what we call conflict is often the surface reaction to an unmet need. And so, we need to see that as a sign that the system has moved away from the people and that there's something new trying to happen, trying to emerge, or there's somebody who's saying, I want to be seen, I want to be valued, I want to belong. This is what is happening, okay? Your job as a leader is not to suppress the conflict, it's to listen, it's to pay attention to what, keep your head on the swivel, as we say, and listen to what it's trying to tell you about the health of your system, because this is a great indication of how healthy your system is, because every conflict is data and it's an opportunity to redesign how your team works and how they communicate and even how they build trust. Okay, so let's talk about leadership for a minute, because this is where, my leaders, if you're listening, I have the philosophy that we are all leaders and we may all lead in different positions at different times, but we're all leaders. But maybe you're saying, there's probably some formal title leaders on this live as well. And so let's let's get real about leadership, okay, and conflict management. I'm here to tell you, if you don't hear from anybody else, that leadership, one of your primary roles is conflict management. I believe that leadership is conflict management, not conflict avoidance, not conflict outsourcing to someone else, not hoping it's magically going to go away. I say that leadership is conflict management because you are always going to be scanning for tension and finding ways to solve them. Whether it's in the work that you do, like the actual tangible work, whether it's in the people that you're leading or managing, like you're always going to have these opportunities where you're going to have to scan for tensions. And so you're always looking for the bottlenecks and the roadblocks and the things in the way and trying to find solutions to resolve those things, okay? And when you start to lean into conflict or the tension, that is when you are building your system to be resilient to the tension. When we talk about we want people who are resilient, we have to show them what it looks like. We have to build systems that hold up and that stand the test of time. We have to do that. We have to be intentional. We can't just allow things to happen and the cards fall as they may, right? I am currently working with working one-on-one with a leader who is facing some internal conflict on her team. There's like different personalities, different communication styles, and a lot of just unspoken tension that's happening. And she came to me and she was like, how do I make this stop? Like, this is too much. But what she really needed to do is step into her leadership. She was avoiding stepping into leadership in her full authority. And it was making it so that the tension and the conflict wasn't going away. And here's the coaching that I gave to her because I was like, it starts with you as the leader. So here is what you need to do. Okay. Again, it's not about fixing the other person, it's about looking at self and then looking at the system. Okay. And then starting to work with the person so that the system and the person work well together. Okay. So here's the coaching that I gave to her. First of all, set expectations. Whenever you are dealing with conflict, you need to set expectations. As a leader, you have to make clear what collaboration looks like in this instance and what respect means and how issues should be addressed. And when you don't do this, you end up allowing the conflict to get bigger. It's not going to go away because now people who don't have the tools and the skills, who are looking to you on how things should be done, and you're avoiding it. So they're avoiding it too, but their avoidance looks like fighting. Their avoidance looks like sarcasm. Their avoidance looks like throwing people under the bus or making statements or not working well together. So you have to set those expectations so that people know what they are expected to do in their jobs. Okay. The second thing that I told her is step into your authority. Because when you do not step into your authority as a leader, I am asking, as the coach, I'm asking, what is your relationship with authority? You can even ask yourself, if you are afraid to step into your authority as a leader, ask yourself, what's my relationship with authority? There are so many things that have shaped us to the point where we are now adults and we're in leadership positions where we may be uncomfortable stepping into authority. And usually, our relationship with authority is how we see control and how do we see power. I talked about power a couple of in a couple of lives. So go back, look at these lives because this is an entire series. If you're on YouTube, you can see them all right away. LinkedIn, you can see them all. Instagram, you can also view them. It's not on my main grid. I have them on the Reels page, but go back and just look and, scan through some of these things. If you're not on my email list, I have been sharing different small passages and small things in my email as well. So if you're not on my email list, click on the bio or on LinkedIn, click in my feature post and join my email list because I also talk about this. But control and power, we usually have some type of relationship with that. And it gets in the way of us stepping into our full authority, especially if you are a woman. Okay? For instance, if you grew up in a controlling environment, as women, we lean towards not showing those same behaviors. We're like, we're not going to be the same. We're not going to be like that. Those were behaviors that were not acceptable. And we have had our organizations and society tell us that that wasn't acceptable either. Right. And so we're not going to, because we have defined power and control with authority, and that is like one and the same, we don't step into our full authority. And what happens is we start to avoid the conflict and we run away from it. And then we're avoiding it, and your team starts to feel unsafe because now they're like, hey, you're supposed to be helping us and you're not helping us. So now we feel unsafe. I can't help but talk about the government right now. I just have to put this in there. I'm not going to go into all the details. And I've been talking about this a lot. And I think that I am going to do some leadership audits. And it's going to be a private leadership audit, either through email or some other forum, because I really want to just peel back the layers of what's happening in our government right now and describe those leadership behaviors so you get a clearer picture of what's happening. Again, I think without awareness, we don't understand what's happening. And it's time for us to be aware, not just at the surface level, but really what is leadership in this moment. I think that's really important. However, going back to what's happening in the government, there is a distrust with some leaders because they are not stepping fully into the conflict, or they're not meeting the tension that is happening, and they're falling into these people pleasing behaviors and actions, and people are losing trust in them, and people do not feel safe. You see how the system has set it up where I need to praise you and honor you, and I need to do what you say at the behest of the people who I'm trying to build relationships with, who I should be standing up for. And so, how can we trust them? How can we even trust them? As a leader, we have to start redefining what authority is and step fully into it if you want to change the course of the direction of where things are headed. Okay. You have to redefine what authority is. And I'm hoping that your definition of authority is not negative, that is positive. It's that service, and it's building relationships that actually last and are sustainable so that you can get shit done on your team, so that you can have a team without a bunch of drama. Okay. That's what I'm hoping. And the last thing that I coach this leader through is hold people accountable. You can care deeply and expect professionalism. This is the paradox of life. This is the paradox of leadership. This is one of the paradoxes. And I'm using that language because I'm reading this Brene Brown book right now, and she really talks about paradoxes. But you can care deeply about somebody and hold them accountable at the same time. It's the same as being a parent. I'm a mom of 4, and I care deeply for my children, but I also hold them accountable for grades and for respect to adults. It shows my children that trust and standards coexist and they come together. And both of these things that are equally important can be in the same space at the same time. Okay. The thing is, leaders cannot eliminate conflict, and we can't walk away, we can't hide, and we can't run away from it. You want to create the container for conflict to be addressed. And this can look like spaces where we surface tensions with the work, where we surface processes or people. And then we have time to process those things together so that the solutions can be created. That is the goal of conflict. That's what we want to do. So, what is conflict actually saying? When you strip away the emotions, conflict is just feedback, y'all. It's just feedback. Now, a lot of y'all are saying, like, oh my God, like, I hate conflict. I don't like it. It's not, it's something that I want to run away from. But just take a moment right now at this point and ask yourself, how does it feel when I have a different thought about conflict as information that's trying to do something, telling me to do something different? That is feedback, that something new is trying to happen. Versus, oh my God, people are not getting along. This person doesn't like me. Oh my God, these people want to fight me. I'm in danger. There's something about to happen to me crazy. You see how those two different things are just different energies? Energetically, it feels different. So we want to see conflict as feedback. Feedback that something in the system needs your attention. And you as the leader, it wants your attention. It wants something different. Okay. It might be saying things like, we don't have shared expectations, or we don't have psychological safety, or we don't have a clear process for decisions, or we're growing faster than our systems can handle. The question isn't how do we get rid of conflict, it's what wants to emerge because of it. Every conflict carries some potential. It carries a new way of working, a new structure, a new truth. It carries something that's trying to come forward. And if we slow down and we listen and we take inventory, we look at the patterns, conflict becomes almost like a consultant. It almost becomes like the angel on your shoulder that's like, hey, this is what you could do. This is what I'm trying to say. This is what's happening. Okay. You're not going to be able to prevent all conflict, but you can design how you work through it. And the way you can do that is normalize conflict as growth, as a part of growth. So make it known right now that conflict is feedback. When people know that tension is safe, it's expected, they bring it forward sooner before it starts to fester. You can also create rituals for repair. So after the conflict happens, don't rush back to business as usual. We try to do that. That's what I call sweep it under the rug and keep it moving. We don't want to do that. Make space for reflection. Make space for repair. Ask yourself what happened? What do we learn about our system? What changes do we need to make moving forward? That's how trust gets stronger. It's because we're repairing and we're trying to fix things, but we're not trying to be perfect. It's not about being perfect, okay? And to the person in R, yes, understanding and resolving the deeper issues so it doesn't become reoccurring. We have to, right? If you're saying things that are happening over and over and over again, it's because you haven't dealt with what needs to happen. Um, I know there are some sayings out there that says like you'll keep having to deal with the same test over and over again before you pass the test, right? That's what happens with conflict. Until you deal with what needs to change or what needs to be different in the system, that same systemic issue is going to keep on happening. It just will. So you might as well look deeper and fix it now. You might as well do that. You also can build feedback loops in your system. So regular retros, one-on-ones, do some surveys, some post surveys. Feedback prevents like buildup. It prevents things from clogging up. If you have a clogged toilet, it prevents that, right? Because when people can start to voice what's happening early and often, conflict becomes more manageable and it even becomes productive. It even like people, I was just telling my husband, I was like, some people are probably Libras. I'm a Libra. My birthday's on Saturday, y'all. My birthday's on Saturday. But and I say that, some people like a healthy debate. I personally like a healthy debate. I love to debate people sometimes, right? And when you create the space where debate is good because debate is going to bring something new. In my last job, I remember we did a game like Shark Tank in order to solve problems. And it was like a lot of debate. It was a lot of challenging ideas and things like that. Not because we thought ideas were bad, but we were trying to look for the best idea. And that's the same thing we can do when we talk about feedback loops. We want to create spaces where we can debate and where we can share these tensions that's going to help us in the long term. Okay. The other thing is accountability and care go together. So we want to make sure that accountability doesn't feel like punishment, but it feels like we're clearing the air, and we are saying things like we hold each other to a standard because we believe in each other, because we believe what we're building, because we believe in the mission of this organization. So we hold each other to a standard. I hold my children to a standard. I just do. It has to be that way, right? Because if I don't hold them to a standard, the world is going to hold them to a standard, and care may not come with that. All right, y'all picking up what I'm putting down? I hope so. All right. So when accountability is human, it brings in your humanity. It strengthens the trust that you have in your organization and moves away from fear. And we don't want fear-based organizations. It's not sustainable, and it doesn't help us over time. And with that brings me to this last point: is keep people at the center of all that you do. Every conflict involves emotion, and emotion is data too. If you can see the human underneath the frustration, you'll find the root faster. As someone who leads the PTA, there were a lot of things that were coming to the surface. And I remember saying, at the end of the day, if we could keep the students at the center of everything we do, and we create the system where the students feel empowered and they feel like they belong and they're valued and they have a safe and fun learning environment, that is going to make sure that everything, all tides lift all boats. I think that's the saying. I always get that one wrong, but everything is going to feel like it's going to come together because I fixed the root of the issue at the person at the center, which is the student. And so that's what you want to do. Keep people at the center. Systems are made of people, and people need to feel seen before they can change. Okay. So here is what I want you to reflect on for this week. Where is conflict showing up in your team or your organization? What might it be trying to teach you about your system? And as a leader, how can you hold the space that people feel like they have some form of clarity and that you care? Where can you hold that space? Because conflict isn't a breakdown, it's a signal. And it's the system's way of inviting you to pay attention. Pay attention to me. I need some attention. That's what the system is saying. And when you start to see conflict as information, you stop fearing it and you start using it. And that's how systems and leaders grow. That's how they evolve. That's how they sustain the test of time, especially during moments like this. Okay. So, the last thing in closing, I just want to say is that conflict is proof that your system is alive and it wants to continue living. Okay. It is proof that your system wants to keep living. Otherwise, it would just be flat and be like, okay, I'm done. But our systems are usually like, make me better, make me more efficient, make me stronger, make me have a greater return on ROI, help me to meet my customer. It's asking to stay alive. And it's where your next level of growth is also waiting, because as the system shifts, you will shift too. You will become a better leader. Okay. So the next time that you face conflict, don't run from it. Listen to it, lean in, and ask, what is this tension or this conflict trying to teach us? And what's the new thing that wants to happen here? Okay. Because when you treat conflict as information, you turn tension into transformation. And that's how great systems and great leaders are built. Okay. Conflict is a feature, not a flaw. Yes, I love that. I love that. So, I want you to share this because I think this is something that we can all learn from. It's something that is kind of the Achilles, the tear in the Achilles in all of our organizations that we always have to deal with. And it's important for us to learn how to shift our thoughts about conflict so that we navigate through and we're not building the resentment and the hate for one another. Okay. If you are not on my email list, please share. Please sign up on the link in my bio or in my featured post on LinkedIn. Connect with me on any of those platforms. Are there any questions that we have? Let me just check. Thank you for my LinkedIn folks who are engaging, my Instagram folks who are engaging. Thank you. I hope YouTube, if y'all engaging, please type in the chat. But great to see you guys. Tomorrow, I will be coming back again at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And tomorrow, I'm going to talk about storytelling. So I will see you tomorrow as we talk about storytelling in our systems and how we do it as leaders so that we can bring people in instead of boring people. All right. All right. Talk to you soon. Bye.